Well, I just want to tell President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and Harry Reid, can you hear us now?
We need change.
You need change?
Real change.
For $1 or?
No, change from this craziness.
We're glad you're here for the Spending Revolt tour. If you are like us, you are fed up with the out-of-control government spending, and you not only want to show your protest towards it, but you'd like to do something about it.
With Halloween right around the corner, I can't think of anything more frightening than having the fear of the government mandating who we can see, what treatments we can have, and more importantly, who is going to have the rationed health care that will occur with socialized medicine.
And that is your hardest working grassroots activist in the state of Wisconsin, Mark Block, the State Director of Americans for Prosperity.
Thank you, Linda. I'm going to keep my comments short because I think most of you have heard the story of Americans for Prosperity in Wisconsin, taking it from 250 members. Ladies and gentlemen, we're over 90,000 members in the state of Wisconsin right now. But I could not have done this without the leadership of the person that I'm now going to introduce, who, when I became the state director, there was 4 states in the United States that were chapters of Americans for Prosperity. There's now 31. All right? We have over 1.5 million members, and I give the credit to the leadership, the vision, and the person that works harder than I do, Tim Phillips, the president of Americans for Prosperity.
Well, good afternoon, fellow freedom fighters. I don't know if I'm shouting because I'm excited or just freezing. I'm a Southerner after all. And Mark made the ultimate sacrifice, well, not the ultimate, a big sacrifice this morning. I came in from Virginia. He even gave me his overcoat. So Mark, you are going the extra mile for the movement. So thank you all. Well, 5 years ago, Mark and I were in Greater Milwaukee at our very first AFP meeting in Wisconsin. There were about 16 folks there, but there was one gentleman there who I looked at and thought, boy, he's got a bright future. And there's a guy named Scott Walker. You know that guy? What an impressive man. What an impressive man, you bet. Well, if you ever wondered whether or not you're making a difference, if you ever wonder if all the calls and the emails and the tea parties and the rallies and the bus trips, all that you do, knocking on doors, being a freedom phoner, if all you do make a difference, I want you to do briefly, even though it's cold, go back in time to a little bit different era. Think back to January of 2009. And this Obie guy and other folks trying to say we've got the majority in the House that's going to take us down the road we want to go. And you had 60 votes in the Senate for the Democrats and some squishy Republicans as well, truth be told. And the left was simply thrilled. They were excited. They were going to do their famous dreams. They had all the hopes and aspirations. They were going to, quote, transform America, right? You heard that. They had 3 big priorities on the domestic front. And you know what they are. Number 1 was card check, right? Taking the secret ballot away from that worker when he or she is trying to decide whether or not to join a union. Taking the secret ballot away from Americans. It was a payoff to big labor and all their buddies in the union movement. And they were going to get it done. Number 2, cap and trade energy taxes. Remember that? Al Gore and the radical environmental movement's most cherished dream. Utility bills through the roof, gasoline prices up, jobs killed, all in pursuit of their nutty global warming agenda. And they were going to get it done. And then health care. I want you now to fast forward to a little bit different time, today. Think where we are now. Card check, and this is a technical political term, so bear with me, but card check is deader than a doornail. They won't even discuss it in polite public company, will they? And why is that? Did big labor suddenly say, oh, you know, we were just kidding. We don't really want that. Go ahead. They didn't say that. What happened was you. You stood up and called and emailed and you said, no, you're not taking away the secret ballot from that worker on the factory floor or that young single mom. You're not going to do it in America. And you won. You beat the labor unions and you beat Washington. You can fight City Hall in Washington, D.C. and win, can't you? And you proved it. Cap and trade. Cap and trade is done for now. Now, it's not over for the long term, but for now, it's done. They got it through the House and could not get it through the Senate. Now, did Al Gore suddenly decide maybe he was wrong after all? Of course not. You happened. You stood up and began knocking on doors and calling your legislators and going to tea parties. And by the way, who's thankful for the Tea Party movement in America? Who's thankful that the Racine Tea Party is right here? Two amazing ladies right there. Thank you guys for what you're doing. All of you guys as well. All of you guys as well. But you happened in cap and trade today. That issue, one of the great untold stories in the last 20 years. Is how far we've come on that issue. We've won on that issue with the American people. We've got to be vigilant with Congress because, as usual with politicians, they're about 10 years behind the people. But we've got to be vigilant, but we're winning because of you and the work you're doing. We're right on the issues, but it takes people standing up and fighting. And you've done what Americans always do when they're faced with a challenge. You get up, shrug your shoulders, and say, we're going to fight, and you do fight. And that's what you've done. And the third issue I'll mention is health care. And there's no way around it. We lost a tough, bitter defeat, didn't we? It was tough, and there's no way around that. Yeah, we improved it a little bit. We got rid of the public option, and we did some nip and tuck here and there. But it was a bitter defeat. Curious, how many of you called or emailed your senator on this issue? I figured so. And did he listen? No! You think he's going to listen on November the 2nd? Yeah, I bet he will. I bet he will. I bet from retirement he'll listen, won't he? Yeah, I bet he will.
He'll be good.
But let me tell you what you did do on health care. You may have lost with those politicians in Washington in all their games, but you won, and you won decisively with the American people, and you know that. They had the money, they had everything else in Washington on their side, and we beat them with the American people. A, because we were right. Freedom is better. Government doesn't run things better than people do. We should make choices. So number one, we were right philosophically. But number two, we had American activists like you who fought and who worked, and we beat the other side. And let me tell you one number on health care that ought to give you a lot of hope about what you do. 56% of Americans in a recent poll out there said they don't just oppose the Obama-Pelosi health care takeover. They want to see it repealed before it even takes over. 56%! And speaking of that president we talked about just a moment ago, this guy, I don't know, have you heard these attacks from the president on Americans for Prosperity? Gosh, it really hurts my feelings. We're just trying to, Mark, we're just trying to save America's all. I mean, come on. They got the President of the United States beating up America. Who are these people? Oh, it's foreign controlled interests. Okay, let's be honest, folks. If you're a foreign controlled interest, I want you to raise your hand. Come on, let's go. All right, I guess just some good old American citizens here today. But they're attacking, and they're attacking because A, we're effective, and B, we're winning. We're beating them. And that guy's approval rating, because of you and your work, and because of his disastrous big government policies, is now around what, 42%, and heading even lower. I wouldn't buy that stock if my life depended on it right now. Absolutely not, because it's going down.
And it really is an honor to have him here today. Please welcome Grover Norquist.
Hey. Thank you very much. But back in 2008, a whole bunch of Americans were asked if they wanted change. And they thought, and they said, yeah, we want change. We don't like the way Washington's working. We don't like what the government's doing. It's spending too much. It's taxing too much. It pushes us around. We want change. But Obama and Reid and Pelosi, when they used the word change, they had something different in mind. They wanted to use the power of the government to change America. They weren't worried, as some of us were. We wanted to use the strengths of the United States to change a corrupt Washington. Their view was what needed to be changed was us. They didn't like the way we led our lives. They didn't like what we did with our free time. They didn't like what kind of energy we used or whether we had the light bulbs on or off. Anyway, so they wanted, when they said change, we heard change Washington. They meant change America with Washington.